The switch up is insane. I remember at one point I'd hop on YouTube, search up Sonic Colors, look at any review ever, and it'd be in everyone's top 5 Sonic games. Nowadays when I search up Sonic Colors, it's apparently one of the worst Sonic games ever made. Now, I know it's very normal to change your opinion on something as time goes on. You're not going to think as highly of something you played before as you grow up, but this game's bad reception can mainly be chalked up to its remake, Sonic Colors Ultimate. The game was rushed, riddled with glitches, somehow looked worse than the original despite being on newer consoles. Thankfully, we're not here to talk about the shit Sonic Colors, we're here to talk about the good one.
I beg your pardon?
Sonic Colors is a fun and good game, I do not care what anybody tells me. Now it does suffer from a bit of false advertising, saying it's a 3D experience when in reality it's about 30% 3D max, but I don't think this problem is as big as everyone says. If Sonic Colors was intended to be a follow-up to Sonic Unleashed keeping the same formula and it was mostly 2D, I would understand the critique a lot more. But I don't see Sonic Colors as that type of game, I think it's its own unique thing. I see Sonic Colors as a gimmick platformer, trading the traditional speedy gameplay for a slightly slower paced game. Sonic Colors is still fast, but nowhere near as much as Unleashed. Now this choice in design was mainly made because this game is played on a Wii Remote. The Wii Remote is limited compared to other controllers, so they adjusted the level design to fit with this. Sonic controls decently in this game. You move with the D-pad, you jump with 2 and boost with 1. There are a couple of control issues that this game has though. 1, Sonic feels kinda sluggish to control. The controls aren't as responsive as games like Generations for example. 2, the double jump is hot doo-doo fart garbage. It barely gets any height and is mainly used for horizontal platforming, which is extremely backwards to say out loud. The last thing I dislike is how limited the controls are. Now I know this was done because we're playing on a Nintendo, but I don't like how certain parts of Sonic's moveset are relegated to certain sections. Moves like the quick step and the drift are limited to certain specific parts and levels. Now the quick step is fine, the game mixes up these sections a lot more and they tend to be fast and decently designed, but when it comes to the drift, these are so dull. In addition to these sections being pretty slow, there are just no hazards present whatsoever, making these sections extremely boring. Now the main focus of this game are the wisps. Think of these as power-ups that extend Sonic's moveset. These are fine for the most part except Cube. The laser wisp allows you to fly in a line or reflect off these diamond gems. Drill allows you to burrow into the ground and find new areas. Banger soundtrack right here. The rocket wisp allows you to shoot into the air. The cube is the most boring in the game. It makes you stop in place to do the slam that changes how certain blocks work. Hover is basically the light speed dash, allowing you to follow a trail of rings. The spike wisp allows you to spin dash on walls. This one's really cool, but it's underutilized. How am I struggling on a simple word? The Nega wisp allows you to turn into Pac-Man, destroying basically any object or enemy in the way. The last wisp is the white wisp, which allows you to boost instead of the rings. I think the best wisps in the game are Drill, Frenzy, and Spike. These fully transform Sonic into something new, keeping the gameplay fresh and adding more variety into the levels. The other wisps are just kinda lacking in this aspect. They either slow you down completely or stop you completely, breaking the pace of gameplay up even more. One other problem the wisps have is they're barely used in 3D. I can only remember using the laser and the frenzy wisp in 3D while the rest are strictly 2D. This just feels lazy. It feels like they're further dumbing down the already limited 3D sections in this game. That being said though, the wisps themselves are still pretty fun. I just wish they were more mandatory for progression. There are certain levels in this game where you don't even need to touch the wisps. Either way though, even though they're not perfect, they're still the focus of the gameplay and the focus of the story itself. This game gets a lot of hate for its lighter tone story, which I just can't understand. I think the lighter tone suits the series more. In fact, the 2 games I consider to have the best Sonic stories are lighter toned. Yeah, sure, these have darker undertones and have slightly dark moments, but they're still light-hearted for the majority of the time. Darker Sonic stories usually end up being more messy because they either take themselves too seriously or have some really cool moments but lack cohesiveness in the bigger picture. Now yes, the writing in this game isn't the best.
Baldy nose hair!
But at the end of the day, most of the people I see mad about this need to realize they are far from the target audience. Like you are 45 with 3 kids, I promise you Sega does not care if this game marketed to 7-year-olds offends you. That being said though, the story is completely fine but pretty basic. Eggman is building this big interstellar amusement park by literally chaining planets together and exploiting the wisp power to create evil versions of themselves. Sonic then has to go from planet to put an end to his plan and free all the wisps. The planets are the levels for this game, each with their own distinct themes. Each planet has 6 levels to play. The first is normally the longest and is the main level in the world. The rest take place in small sections that are repeated between each. This unfortunately does lead the game to feel repetitive, not only because we're going to be running through repeated sections, but because of how short some of these levels are. No joke, some of these levels are 20 seconds long, which is pathetic for a level in a game. Now these levels are intended to be replayed to find all of the secrets, including the red rings. There are 5 red rings in levels and collecting all of them unlocks Super Sonic. Red rings are commonly hidden in areas you can't reach unless you back backtrack with certain wisps you unlock later. This is smart, it encourages you to replay levels and explore them fully. Anyways, on the topic of levels, most of them are good. There are a couple stinkers here and there, but they don't really drag down the game that much. Tropical Resort is fine all the way through with no really bad levels. Sweet Canyon starts well but falls off hard.
Yo, I can't wait to play the Switch level in Sonic Colors, that's my favourite.
Starlight Carnival is this space themed level with amazing visuals. Too bad 90% of it is indoors. The outside is beautiful, but most of the level takes place inside of these butt ugly grey ships, and the one level that takes place outside fully is the fucking spring level. You bounce on a slow moving spring for 2 minutes straight, and there are no wisps in this one either. Planet Wisp is just what we put at McDonald's car park here. The outside sections are so serene and nice before it's all ruined by technology. This level's biggest problem is excluding the outside grass sections, it's all 2D. Aquarium Park is a really nice water level with easy. Oh, Aquarium Park is a really nice water level. Aquarium Park is a really nice water level with East Asian themed architecture everywhere. One thing you can do in this game is swim, and I say swim very loosely because you just jump infinitely. They also for some reason brought the spring levels back, like why are they here? Yo, whoever made these never touch level design again. Asteroid Coaster is the coolest level in the game. It mainly takes place outside with these cool roller coaster sections and these cool hopping between planet segments. The inside area is also cool because you get to use the Frenzy Wisp and just abuse everything. The final stage is Terminal Velocity, only having 2 acts, one being before the final boss and one being after. Act 1 is a linear level focused on quick stepping around robots and then being chased by a big Urple one. Act 2 is straight up running away from a black hole, one of the coolest set pieces we've ever had in this franchise. At the end of each planet there's a boss fight. There's 3 types and they're repeated throughout the game. The first type of boss is this Ferris wheel robot thing with a big eye you have to attack. A lot of the times you have to platform up and homing attack him manually, but if you get a wisp you can just one-shot him. The second type are the pirate ship bosses. These are split into 2 phases. The first is avoiding cannonballs to hit a switch, which transitions into the second phase where you need to attack the captain. The last type of boss is another ship. In this one you have to auto run and avoid obstacles and then attack when he's open. All the bosses in this game are really simple, but I will say they're at least fun. These do have their problems though. For example, 2 out of 3 of them are fully 2D. Second, these 3 bosses are repeated throughout the game, so you have the first 3 bosses in the first 3 worlds and then they're repeated for the last 3. The last 3 are more difficult than the third, but they still end up feeling repetitive. The final boss is cool though. Unfortunately, like the rest of the game, he is just kind of easy, but on the plus he's fully 3D. The coolest part about this boss are the attacks. You have to avoid evil versions of wisps, and one thing I like is in one of the attacks it changes the perspective so Sonic is running away from Eggman. Anyways, to beat him you just have to hit him a couple times until you're able to blow your load all over him. And that's basically it for Sonic Colors. Now yeah, this game is basic and has a lot of flaws, but I'd still say it's a fun experience throughout. The low points in this game really aren't that low and they don't take away from the full experience whatsoever. I love Sonic Colors so much and I forever think despite its flaws it will always be one of my favourite Sonic games. Also, why are the credits 15 minutes long? There could not be 15 minutes worth of people working on this 2-hour game.